This is Wickett on Wisconsin. My name's Mike Wickett. After 10 years in Milwaukee talking sports, I took a bit of a break, but now I'm back and here to talk about the Packers, the Bucks, the Brewers, and more with you. And now inside the Koss Headphone Studios, this is Wickett on Wisconsin with me, Mike Wickett. Hey, it is my almost instant reaction. Now, as you know, on these night games, I stay at home with three babies every day. So I can't always do the podcast right out of the gate after Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football. So I try to give you my almost instant reaction the next day. And this is usually during nap time, ironically. Of course it is, right? Packers over the Bears, 41-25. And I've done something similar to this podcast already this year. And that would be the game against Jacksonville. Like, what do you want to what can you possibly take away from a dominant performance by the Green Bay Packers? Now, this was a game, final score 41-25. It was not that close. It was not a two-score game by the end. Green Bay literally took their foot off the gas. And I know that made a lot of people upset. And I saw some people grasping at straws for controversial things to say on Twitter last night. Like, our defensive depth isn't very good, or relax. As Aaron would say, RELAX. This was as dominant a performance as Green Bay could have had against Chicago. I mean, listen, the game was never in doubt whatsoever. They took their foot off the gas. If you care about stats, if you care about final numbers, sure. You know, as I got a couple of tweets about it when I threw this one out there. And I usually end the podcast with tweets, but I'll start with a couple real quick. This is from Corno1US. Nick writes at Mike Wickett on Twitter. I'm not freaking out about it, but I really don't like it. And I like this is from Berg on Twitter, who wrote at Mike Wickett. Let us hate our defense in peace, Mike. Fair enough. You know, that's fine. If you want to hate on the defense for the effort they gave at the end of the ball game, you have every right to do so. I look up to the point about midway through the third quarter, early in that fourth quarter, this game was completely over. I mean, this game was probably over when they were up 27-10 at halftime. I do believe this. The Packers could play the Bears, barring injury all on both teams. If these two teams played each other 10 times, I believe Green Bay wins at least 8, maybe 9, and there's an outside shot at 10. Chicago sucks, all right? More on Chicago sucking in a minute. I do want to talk, obviously, about Green Bay. They were pretty much able to do anything they wanted in this football game. I mean, Aaron didn't have blow you away with his numbers from the yardage standpoint. But Aaron was still fantastic in this game. I mean, the throws he was making with ease. I mean, he only threw for 211 yards, but he threw 4 touchdowns. His quarterback rating was 132. He hit Tunyon for a touchdown, Devontae for a touchdown, Lazard for a touchdown, which was great to see, and Mercedes Lewis had the early touchdown in this ballgame. And what was so amazing about Green Bay's offense in this is Chicago's got a darn good defense, right? Like, if you play fantasy football and you match up, okay, how do the Bears what a quarterback score against, the Chicago defense, or what do wide receivers do? And you know those rankings and stuff. Usually quarterbacks struggle against the Chicago Bears defense. And it has been a case or two in the past where Aaron has struggled against the Bears. But that wasn't the case. Statistically, quarterbacks were the Bears were giving up the 29th most fantasy points. Take it for what you want, but 29th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Aaron torched him and really didn't have to do anything in the fourth quarter. Threw for 211 and 4 touchdowns, no picks. I just think that Green Bay right now is so superior to Chicago, and the rivalry is so one-sided right now. Again, they could play this game 10 times. Green Bay wins minimum 8. Minimum 8. And they've been so good, or they were so good against this Bears team again. Part of it is simply the fact that the Bears had no pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He didn't get hit one time. 0 times, which, A, is a credit to Bakhtiari and the rest of the boys. And there was an injury. We'll talk about Corey Linsley here in a second. But it's also a credit to the fact that, they get rid of the football really, really quick. Whether it's an RPO, whether it's moving out of the pocket, whatever it was, they got back to getting the ball out of Aaron's hands, or Aaron got back to getting the ball out of his hands most of the night rather quick. There were a couple of times, I think it was the touchdown pass to Davante Adams, where Aaron had 6 seconds, and he wasn't under any duress. He had 6 seconds in the middle of the pocket to stand there, look, and then here comes Davante. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll throw it up, high ball, high point, touchdown, Packers. Aaron didn't face any pressure whatsoever, and I don't know if you know this, but if you don't pressure Aaron Rodgers, he's just going to sit back there with his accuracy and the talent he has with Davante and Lazard and the other guys. He's going to pick you apart. That was unbelievable to see, and I don't think the Bears could do anything about it. Now, they're playing without Akeem Hicks, and I don't know how much of a huge difference he would make. I don't think it goes from 41-25 to, 27-25. If Hicks is in there, but it's probably a closer football game, I would think. I think the Bears do better stopping Green Bay on the ground. Aaron Jones, 17 carries, 90 yards, 17 for Jamal Williams, and 73 yards, and the long touchdown run. That's 34 carries and 163 yards for the Packers from their two main running backs. If Hicks is there, they probably slow Green Bay down a bit on the ground. But you got to love to see that. I mean, you had 34 carries by your guys, by your two big dog running backs, over 160 yards. And what that does is it keeps the other guy fresh. I'm a big fan of getting Aaron Jones 22 carries. I've said that on podcasts a lot. Aaron Jones needs 22 carries to be great. Not against the Bears, because there was never a threat from the other side, because Mitch Trubisky sucks, all right? The Bears have zero going for them. I did get worried when on their first drive, and we have talked about this ad nauseum, and you're a Packers fan, so you probably know this. But if you are ever struggling on the ground, all you got to do is play Green Bay. And David Montgomery took that ball up the middle, was it the second, third play of the game, and ran for the 50, 55 yards or whatever. He doesn't have huge high top-end speed, so he didn't break it to the end zone. He was caught, but I was like, oh, boy, here we go again. David Montgomery, who is at best a mediocre running back. David Montgomery's going to gash you. Wonderful. Now, it didn't turn out that way. I mean, I don't even know what numbers David Montgomery had, because this game really wasn't close. 11 carries for $103. The big one was the 57-yarder, so 10 carries for about 50 yards. I mean, okay. Again, if you're having a bad day on the ground, or you're having a bad year on the ground, all you got to do is play Green Bay. But at that point, you're like, okay, they held them to a field goal, and after that it was gone. It was over. And then in the fourth quarter, Green Bay took their foot off the gas, and Mitch Trubisky was able to complete some passes, and they put up a couple of fourth-quarter touchdowns. And I know, like I said, my Twitter timeline was blowing up with people, our defense is soft, our defense is giving up all these yards, all these points. Man, the game was never in doubt. Tim Boyle was warming up before those two touchdowns, all right? I questioned bringing Aaron Rodgers back in until I looked up at the score, and it was just a 2-score game. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Why is Aaron throwing the ball? Oh, it's just a 2-score game. Okay, that makes sense. Not that you couldn't have replaced Boyle with Rodgers. This isn't baseball, but it did make sense. It's so bad for Mitch Trubisky that Tony Dungy, he and Tirico were on the call last night, and they were treating Mitch Trubisky at the end when he was doing well against the Packers' lame duck defense. They literally were just treating him like a toddler. It was, see, there it is. Yay, they're completing some passes. Yay. Hey, see, that's a good completion for Mitch Trubisky. And I know you need to start with something if you're the Chicago Bears and you have any interest in moving forward with Mitch Trubisky, but it was just like kid gloves being worn by Dungy and Tirico on the call last night. And I know they're not going to sit there and trash Trubisky like Chicago Sports Radio will, or Milwaukee or Wisconsin Sports Radio will, or I will, because Mitch Trubisky sucks. But it just said a lot. It really did say a lot about where Mitch Trubisky is at a couple of years later. And boy, what salt in the wound it was for Bears fans. Excuse me. What salt in the wound it was for Bears fans when they showed the graphic that for the last 9.5 years, Aaron Rodgers has been the NFL's highest-rated passer. Until last week, early in the week, when Deshaun Watson took over the reign and held it for 3.5 days. Watson drafted after Trubisky. And then on Sunday, after his monster day against the Buccaneers, Patrick Mahomes took over the lead as the NFL's all-time leading passer in terms of passer rating. And they even pointed it out that they weren't searching for statistics to bury Trubisky, but God, if you're a Bears fan, you will never, ever live down the fact that Watson is great. Mahomes is on track to be the GOAT, and also your rival to the north in Aaron Rodgers has been, in the conversation as the best in the game for the last decade. That's got to sting. That's got to sting. Green Bay gets Philadelphia coming up next. I have no idea what to make about Philadelphia. I got a special guest coming up later on in the week. We'll talk more about the Packers and the Eagles. Green Bay defensively against Chicago actually looked pretty good. I do want to get to one note. I'm kind of doing this out of order. It was good to hear that Rashawn Gary was getting the start over Preston Smith, And how about Preston Smith, albeit with the help of a face mask, picked up the fumble, ran it into the end zone. Green Bay got a defensive score. Kevin King made a play. Raven Green played well. They got Christian Kirksey made a play. Got a little banged up. Kamal Martin got a little banged up. Came back into the game. This was a good effort by the Packers defense against one of the worst offenses in the National Football League. But still, the defense played better. Up next, they get Philly. Philly, for some reason, Philly's one of those teams where you just don't understand why they can't put it all together. I mean, Carson Wentz has absolutely regressed. I think you saw he was one of the worst quarterbacks when not facing pressure. When you have more than, he's statistically one of the lowest-rated quarterbacks when he has more than 2.5 seconds to throw the ball. It's supposed to be the other way around. It's supposed to be you stink when you are pressured. But he has faced so little pressure at times and sucks so bad at it. And he's had some guys that have been injured. We know Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey have been in and out of the lineup here. But Fulgham had a good run. They got the rookie, whose name I can't remember right now. They got about 7 tight ends that have been able to catch the ball for that team that have all been really good, including former Packers tight end Richard Rodgers. So offensively, I just don't know what to make of that team. Who knows if Wentz will even be the starter. Maybe Hurts gets the start by the time the Packers game rolls around coming up next Sunday. It'll be the Fox game of the week. It's going to be on national television. It's the 3:25 game, so the whole world will get to see Green Bay and Philadelphia, that one coming up next week. Quick note, talking about Chicago. Green Bay has now beaten Chicago for the 100th time. The 100th time. I love some of the milestones and statistics that come out after a win like that against the Chicago Bears. Since 1992. Just some fun stats for you. Yeah, let's close out the podcast with this because I'll get to some thoughts about the Bears and their coaching situation later on in the week. Since 1992, the Packers own a 43-15 record against Chicago. Aaron Rodgers, 21 of 29, 211, 4 TDs, no picks, 132 rating. It's his first time with a 100 rating against the Bears since the 2018 opener. That was the game when he came back after the injury in the first half. Remember, people thought the season was over because his knee went the wrong way. And it is Aaron Rodgers' 11th game with at least a 100 quarterback rating against the Chicago Bears. Here's another one for you. By the way, that's from my buddy Ryan Wood. Packers history on the previous note. This is from NFL Research. Aaron Rodgers now has 51 career passing touchdowns and a 105.3 passer rating against the Bears. He also has 50 touchdowns and 108 passer rating against the Minnesota Vikings. No other player in NFL history has 50 passing touchdowns and a 100 passer rating against even one team. Aaron's got it against 2, the Vikings and the Bears. That's pretty dang good. That is pretty dang good. I got a lot to say about Chicago and some of these coaching openings that are going to be around. Detroit's got one. There's obviously going to be one in New York. There should be one in Denver. We'll get to that because I just don't see a lot on the horizon for the Chicago Bears. I really don't. But I'm cool with that too. I am very, very cool with that, too. Packers improved to 8-3, 41-25 winners over the Chicago Bears. Up next, the Philadelphia Eagles. I will have another podcast for you later on in the week, so make sure that as you are subscribing, and I appreciate that, and you are downloading and you are listening and you are rating and reviewing the podcast so I can continue to grow the podcast. All of that helps, and I hope that you have yourself a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks so much for listening. This has been Wickett on Wisconsin with me, Mike Wickett. Until next time, go Pack, go Bucks, and go Brewers. Thanks for listening to Wickett on Wisconsin. If you have any feedback or you want to reach out to the show, you can find me on Facebook, Mike Wickett Podcasts, or you can email MikeWickettPodcasts@gmail.com. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter @Mike Wickett. Thanks to Silverman Sound Studios for providing the music for today's show. And you can find us anywhere you find your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Until next week, thanks for listening to Wickett on Wisconsin.